But somewhere along the line, you changed. You stopped being you. You let people stick a finger in your face and tell you you're no good. And when things got hard, you started looking for something to blame, like a big shadow. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
Welcome back inside another new episode
of The Booty
and the Beast podcast. We're getting better at this, though. That's
we
for
are.
sure.
At least I caught on.
Unique episode this week is you weren't there. I was rolling solo this week.
I know. Having an opening with me here and then gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, what do you think of the interview with Heather Jacques? That's how you pronounce your last name, by the way. I've been saying for years, Jacques. And I told her in person, like, Heather, your last name to me is still Jacques. It sounds cooler.
Yeah, it does.
She's like, when she's like, I go, how do you pronounce your last name? She goes, Jacques, like the athlete.
Oh.
I'm like, that's lame.
That is
Shame on
lame.
your parents for that. So today we're actually going to be, we have a short intro here, obviously, back here at the FIHQ. Then I'll be passing it over to my interview with Heather Jacques. She is the head formulator now over at Axe Sledge Supplements. I was there in Pittsburgh this week visiting Axe Sledge and some other stuff. It was a good conversation for me. Like I didn't know what to expect going into Axe Sledge. Like I knew this brand was big, but I didn't know like how big. So Axe Sledge also has All-American Roughneck, which is like a Carhartt-like apparel company. So they have the Axe Sledge supplement line. They have All-American Roughneck. They have 3 different buildings. They have 4 different buildings, actually. They have a customer service building, which is their initial HQ. Then they have 2 warehouses, one that's dedicated to All-American Roughneck, one that's dedicated to Axe Sledge, and then they have their HQ. So 3 of the buildings are close to each other, and then HQ is like 20 minutes away. So
that's kind of funny.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But they were awesome. Greeted me while I walk in. There's a sign that says, "Welcome Ryan, Axe Sledge." Got a workout in at Pump Town, which is great. Was able to try a new pre-workout from the brand that's expected to launch this summer. So they wanted my feedback on it. And I posted the photo to social. It's, let's just call it a Pump First pre-workout. Very well done.
Yeah.
For me, and it's interesting, I'm back here now at the HQ to kind of talk to you, is like, has there ever been a supplement company in your history that you think spoke to you as a female?
That's hard because when I first started...
It's not hard right now. It's actually soft. Whoa.
Hey, now. When I first started like getting into pre-workouts, I took advice from my friends who happened to be guys. So I feel like my perspective on like where to get pre-workouts wasn't like the general like public. Like I went to GNC and took the generic, like I started with Ghost, actually. It was one of the first ones after like C4 and the basic ones. But
so not to cut you off, but literally just had a call with Nutrabolt, and I actually told him, and then you probably heard me, I said, C4 Nutrabolt actually does a fairly good job of speaking to females. Ghost does a good job of speaking to females.
Yes.
Alani New Age does a good job of speaking to females.
Yeah, that was before my time.
Yeah,
they weren't in existence when I first started all pre-workouts. But I think if they would have been, I probably would have ended up trying Alani New at some point.
Do you like Katie Hearn?
My sister actually followed her a lot closer than I did.
Sure.
I wasn't one of those people that really like followed a ton of the influencers when they first started uprising.
And then you married one.
And then I married one. But yeah, no, I never really followed her much. I heard from Des like certain things, but no.
So basically you're saying that no one really spoke to you.
Not specifically.
So
no.
Axe Sledge, I think we had this conversation, and you guys will hear it on the show, but I believe they sway like 80-20 men or 90-10 men. And I said, Heather, I'm like, you're a female. You're a female formulator in a boys' business. And what I mean by that is it's traditionally been the boys' club. We've talked about this at length on multiple podcasts.
Definitely.
Put yourself out there, Heather. Let people know, like, hey, these supplements are being formed. Now, the one thing going against Axe Sledge is their branding. And
I was just going to say, like, if I looked at, like, what their actual packaging and everything else, it is driven more towards, like, a men's men's look.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, if they had like their general health line, which is something that she's very passionate about, and she talks about that at length on the podcast, would be something that has a softer look. Like you look at their greens powder, it's white, it's a softer look.
Definitely.
They showed me a new greens label. I don't know if it's out yet. Definitely more approachable versus say, the new 212 degree thermal, which is their fat burner, which again, to me, when you have the sledgehammers as an X.
Yeah, that's what I think of right away.
For sure.
Like the big sledgehammers.
But I think that they need to use her in a way that she comes on and not just geeks out. Like, I don't think the traditional female or even male for that matter understands some of the terminology and things that she speaks about on her personal channel. Like she'll speak about, for instance, pumpies and how it attacks multiple pathways from the nitric oxide perspective. And like most people don't get that,
Definitely not.
So
Yeah.
if she can utilize her image and position within that company and what she's doing in formulation. Now, she is not the only female formulator in sports nutrition. Not at all. There are plenty of female formulators at co-mans that formulate different products. We just don't see them, you know.
For sure.
And typically you don't see the formulator in general. There's a couple of formulators out there who are more open on social, like Max Fairchild, Drew Peters, Kenton Engel, Brian Rand. Like there's these other people who actually formulate products that are out in the open on social. Again, all men.
Yep.
But even, you look at some of the biggest companies, let's use Muscle Tech. I don't know who formulates that Muscle Tech. Most people, they have an entire team of R&D.
I was going to say it's probably more than one person.
But at the same time, like, they don't show that. So I think we're in such a reality TV, transparent world. If you are a formulator at ABC company, put yourself out. Like Joey Savage from Glaxon, for instance, does a really good job on certain things and putting himself out there. But again, another male. So I think Heather could be the first domino to fall potentially in the space, in terms of being like, hey, I'm a female and I take these products. I don't need to be, for example, Missy Trescott is an athlete of Axe Sledge. Not everybody wants to look like. In fact, most people probably don't want to look like Missy.
Their ambassador team alone, like they come off as a very hardcore, edgy brand,
Right?
Like the demo crew, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah, but that's the thing is. I mean, she mentioned too. She's like, I want to be something for everybody. Well, you can't. So I think you have to chisel out your own lane, and they're doing that. So they have to be okay potentially with the split. But you look at a brand like Rise or Ghost.
Yep.
Who are more, we use the term lifestyle, right? Like Dan and Ryan from Ghost have always said this. We wanted to create a brand in which people wanted to look good in the gym so they could go out and get girls.
True.
I mean, that is the majority of people that go to you go to the gym. Most gym goers are that people. Like, I mean, there's the niche, there's the me's of the world who want to be, meatheads. But then most people go because they want to be healthy, they want to look good with their clothes off, and they want to get a guy or a girl. Like if they go to the club that night or go to the bars, a girl across the bar is going to look at that guy and be like, he's in shape. I'm interested. Physical appearance goes a long way.
Especially for women. Like I think when I first started working out, I didn't even know what bodybuilding was. I never even really
You worked out because you weren't happy with yourself.
Yeah, I worked out because I wanted to look good.
Right.
It was simple as that. And that's, I think like you said, Ghost and some of those brands that are much more lifestyle forward focuses on those people.
So I think it's such an interesting dynamic that Heather is at this, I would almost call it, I wouldn't say hardcore, but more edgy brand. Even though they're not necessarily, I mean, outside of the one DBAT product that they have, their products are all pretty straightforward. Like that's the only product that could, that's very edgy. And we talk about that product as well on the podcast. But so I think there's an opportunity for her there, but then there are also maybe an opportunity to have like a spin-off line under Axe Sledge or a separate brand that maybe she's more entrenched in digitally and visually because it's a softer approach. So we will see what they do, but it was a good conversation. Pittsburgh is beautiful, by the way. The people were fucking golfing. It was 30 degrees outside, no snow, and they were golfing. You guys are Steeler country.
Never do that.
Steeler country. I don't understand you, but beautiful city. I'd like, obviously we'll probably go back.
When I'm able.
We are going to have more guests on the show again, too. Some more stuff on site. Travel is going to be at a minimum here, obviously, with baby boy coming here.
3 weeks.
3-4 weeks, depending on when he decides he wants
Likely
to poke his head out. So, but then obviously, then you'll be back on doing some stuff.
Yes. Well, breastfeeding obviously is going to limit some, but more than I have been, at least.
For sure. I can't wait for you to take your first pre-workout again, and you're like bitching about beta-alanine or something. Like, oh my God, I hate this stuff.
Super sensitive to all that.
You're super sensitive to a lot of stuff.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up. Hand it over to my conversation with Heather Jacques, head formulator, Axe Sledge. She got a cool path. Like, she went to school for some geeky stuff, and then she worked at PricePlow for a bit, and then she found her way to Axe Sledge. Eventually got a tattoo. Don't think she's going anywhere.
Eventually got a tattoo.
An Axe Sledge tattoo.
That's an important thing to add in there.
Well, I mean, I said to her, and you'll hear her, I was like, what are you going to, because she rolled up in her car and she has Axe Sledge decals. I said, what are you going to do when you leave Axe Sledge? Jokingly. And she goes, I ain't leaving. I got a tattoo. And then we actually talk about, the potential of her doing her own thing.
That's dedication right there.
Obviously. So she's dedicated. They have a great team, though. Like Mike and Seth. And, I sat and talked with Seth for like an hour just about life. So great team. Welcome me in. Let me work out. Let me try some shit. So to the team at Axe Sledge, Mike, Seth, Heather, Shane, the entire office crew, appreciate the hospitality. This conversation is with yours truly, Heather Jacques.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been would be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
Adding my product is going to help you get to where you want to be.
5%ers is 5% of the people in the world that are willing to do whatever it takes to reach their goals. We're talking about business, success, education, willing to do whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
Cage was born of a need for premium, health-focused products that actually work. We help you lift heavier, run faster, live healthier, and achieve your potential. You deserve to trust a company that doesn't cut corners, one that sources the highest quality ingredients. Welcome to Caged.
We're here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania at the Axe Sledge HQ. Actually, this is the meeting room within the HQ. No, we're not drinking everything that's behind us. How much of this have you cracked into?
I'm not a drinker at all.
That's right.
I've
you
had
don't
one
touch
sip, and
like since
I
you've been
almost
here?
threw up, yeah.
You almost threw up?
I thought it tasted like gasoline. It was Stag, whatever the Stag is.
So you formulate
It was that one.
pre-workouts and all these different concoctions for a living that some of them can taste like shit, and you almost threw up from alcohol?
Dude, it was brutal. It was the worst one probably on the show. I mean, maybe. I don't know.
Wow. I mean, don't say that too loudly. The people here might judge you for that. But
That's true.
Heather, how do you actually pronounce the last name? Is it Jacques?
Jacques.
Jacques. I like Jacques, but I'll go
almost
Jacques.
like a-
Yeah.
like an athlete. I
Yeah,
don't know,
like an
a jock.
athlete. Little known fact about Heather, she helps and actually does all the formulation here at Axe Sledge now, and we're here, and I thought it'd be super cool to sit down with her and discuss with her basically your track record, your past, how you got into the spot that we are now. And obviously we have several products here in front of us. One of my favorite products that she actually formulated was Pumpies, which is a convenient on-the-go pump capsule. But how old are you?
25.
25 years old. All right. College?
Did I go to college? Yes.
Where'd you go?
It's like a Division II university called Grand Valley State University.
Okay.
I'm from Michigan, so a lot of people know like University of Michigan or Michigan State. It's a pretty well-known school. It's in Grand Rapids, if anyone knows like the area. But I actually went for athletic training, which is essentially, I describe it as like physical therapy for athletes.
Okay.
So I got certified. I was a certified AT. Started to do my master's actually at Northern Michigan University, which is in the Upper Peninsula. It's like it's pretty much Canada.
Yep.
So that's where I went to do my master's, and as I was doing that, PricePlow, kind of your competitor, I guess if you want to call it that, had a job listing for like a content writer.
Sure.
And I saw it, and I was like, hey, I'm just gonna apply. I didn't expect anything of it. I was like, you know what, like college will always be there, but it was actually during semester break. It was like winter break, and I was like, I'm just gonna apply. So I ended up getting the job, and I was gonna balance it. I was like, I'll just do my master's in exercise science. My goal was actually to become a certified strength and conditioning coach, or maybe even just like an athletic trainer for a college, but you had to get your master's no matter what, right? So that's what I did, and I just got that job, and I said, you know what, this is, at first it was supposed to kind of be like a part-time job, but it was so much picking up, I was like, I'm just gonna drop out of school, and then, I just took off from there, and then I started, one of the brands we ended up working with Axe Sledge, so I got connected with Mike, and he was like, hey, why don't you just come, like it was about probably, I think a year or two after working for PricePlow, I think it might have been a full year, and he was like, hey, why don't you just come kind of work for us? Like we kind of need someone to fill this role, because they had great formulas and great products, but they didn't really have the education side of things. Like, obviously Seth is very good with like promoting, marketing, and all, they had all that pat down, like great labels and flavors, but the education side was a little bit missing. So they brought me in to kind of fill that role. And then I've been here for just about 2 years now. So, I mean, just recently I've started to do, just last year, started to do more formulation side of things. And, I've always worked with our manufacturer to get supplement samples and all that stuff. But all of this is kind of just like a passion project of mine.
Right.
I was always an athlete growing up. I actually ran cross country and track in college and high school. But this stuff, I just went to the gym one day, fell in love with supplements and just the industry and just improvement, right? Like you go into the gym and it's on you to improve. You don't have to worry about a team or anybody else. It's always on you. And that's kind of how my love for just the whole industry kind of started.
What was the first, do you remember, like obviously being an athlete, being cross country, I wouldn't say, traditionally supplements aren't like a huge thing that endurance athletes are taking because quite frankly, supplement brands don't know how to talk to endurance athletes, is my personal opinion. But what was the first supplement you ever remember taking?
It was actually C4 pre-workout.
The entry level pre,
What's funny, okay, so I grew up in Northern Michigan, which is very rural area.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of gyms. I went to this one gym that was actually owned by a couple of bodybuilders, so I had great equipment. I didn't know at the time that there was so many gyms that aren't very good, like, you know what I mean, equipment selection. So they did a really good job of just putting that gym together. And I remember they sold smoothies at the, they had a smoothie bar and everything. They sold diamondized protein. And so I just kind of gradually got introduced to supplements through that gym because they sold supplements there. And I took a pre-workout. I remember taking beta-alanine, it had beta-alanine, of course. And I thought I was having like allergic reaction. I was like, what is happening to me? Why am I tingling everywhere? And like I said, the endurance side of things had nothing to do with supplements. It was my love for training because although I was always an athlete playing basketball, different sports, I don't know, I love training more than the competing, if that makes sense. Like I love just going, like I said, when I went to the gym, none of my friends worked out. It was a weird thing. Like I would have to go with them to show them what to do, essentially. And that was all self-taught too. I watched YouTube videos, on like how to lift. I obviously, those guys, the guys who own the gym, they're older bodybuilders, but they were trainers and stuff too. So it was just the environment, just kind of like, it was just a great place to be in to like kind of have all that escalate, if that makes sense. So, but college definitely helped because I got the more technical, like scientific studies and the research and like, because my degree was very heavy into like writing and like, so whenever I could do a school project, I was like, if I could pick the topic, it was always some sort of supplement, sports performance related thing, because that's just what I was interested in. I wasn't in I wasn't interested in like general population stuff, or even though that's what the majority of the research is on. I wanted something to do with athletes and performance optimizing versus, like anything else. So,
because I would say like there's no coursework out there that teaches you how to formulate, or that even talks about certain ingredients that we use within the space. So that a lot of that stuff can be, I wouldn't say, to an extent, self-taught, right, through white papers and research studies and whatnot. So, I guess taking C4, did you eventually turn it over, look at the label, and start being curious about like what the ingredients were, and start diving into some of the studies, or how did you discover your inner nerd for ingredients when it came to performance?
Yeah, I'm very conscious of like what I put in my body, like from a nutritional standpoint. So when, I started to like take different pre-workouts and notice like, hey, I get an effect from this, but not the other one or whatever. And obviously everyone knows caffeine for the most part. Right. But the other ingredients in there, I just started nerding out on like, and like I said, a lot of it, even bodybuilding.com. I mean, like the forums and all that stuff.
They were great. For what they were, they were awesome.
It was just years and years of me just being a nerd and just starting to learn about all the ingredients that were effective and maybe the ones that didn't have enough research on them yet. And then obviously just trial and error. I mean, and I took a pharmacology class as well in college, and that was, obviously it's based on actual drugs, but that was super interesting to see all the different pathways and like how can these supplements be utilized versus medications or something like that. So it was just like over the course of 5-6 years of just self-learning, trying things, and then there is a good amount of research on supplements. I mean, there really is, and when you see something like creatine or whatever that they're so well researched, you're like, I was going to do my master's and do a thesis on like supplements, or I didn't know exactly what it was going to be yet, but like I said, I think being that I love to just learn what I'm going to put in my body, and these are supplements that you need to know like what you're putting in your body, right? Sure. Like, I know NutriBio, another brand, talks about all the time. It's like if they're not third-party testing their stuff, it's not a t-shirt, right? You're not just slapping it on, you're like, oh, this t-shirt, it's good or bad. It's like it's actually going in your body. You're trying to get an effect from it, hopefully positive. But it's like, I don't know. I just kind of fell into my love with nutrition and stuff like that as well.
How much more did you learn then when you actually took the role of PricePlow, started writing, doing content, working with brands more? At that point, then probably being introduced to more ingredient suppliers and manufacturers and even contract manufacturers. Like, did you learn a bunch during that year there?
Oh, for sure. I think PricePlow, that really escalated my ability to kind of get into this role, because obviously if you look at PricePlow's like website, it's very heavily research based in terms of they have a ton of different citations and stuff like that. So I kind of had to fill that role as well with, helping them. So obviously I really dove into the research then because I had to write about it, right? And although I had that ability through college, I wrote about other topics, so I had the, the skill to do it. It was just, applying it. Yeah. And then, dealing with different brands and just obviously different personalities. And then I didn't really learn too much about manufacturing until I got into this role. Sure. But that was always the side, I wanted to learn about the area so bad, because I was like, manufacturing's almost everything. Like, if you have a poor manufacturer, the supplements aren't going to work right. Like, if they're not doing testing, like I said, I was always that person who wanted to dive way more deeper into that side of the industry when that's not the pretty side of the industry. It's not the marketing, it's not the label design. It's kind of like what I thought really mattered, because I was like, we all look at it, we take a pre-workout, we're like, oh, we wish we could change this about it or whatever. So it was like, my goal with working with PricePlow was always to find a brand that really fit me, fit my image, and that I believed in, and then also be able to, just like make really good products and hopefully.
I think a benefit to that for you in the role that you're in now is, I think many, like for instance, if you're like a fan of a particular brand, or let's talk about like brand ambassadors, they typically use like one product, and they don't know what else is out there. The fact that you're at PricePlow and using a multitude of brands and a multitude of ingredients, it sets you up in a position to say, hey, when you eventually came to Axe Sledge, you knew that you liked this ingredient, that ingredient. You could propose that and introduce that to Seth, Mike, and the team here. But which is curious and different, is this is typically a man's world, right? Like they always say, this is the boys, this is a world for the boys, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's traditionally what it's been. Here you are, you're a female coming into this sports nutrition world, being the head formulator at Axe Sledge, working in tandem with Seth. Any pride in that like you're in this boys world and like you're the one that's putting out these phenomenal products?
I don't know if I like, obviously I'm proud, and like sometimes it's surreal for me to like be in this position, because I'm like, man, just a year ago, I can't imagine like being able to actually, like, this is my goal in life, was to like be able just to create products, and especially with such a great team that we have, it's like, it's really surreal for me just to be able to do this. But I mean, and also my age and stuff. Obviously, I haven't been in this that long. I know I have a turn to learn too. Like, I don't act like I know everything, but it's something that, like, I think it's just I don't know what it is, because I always gravitated towards brands when I was at PricePlow and everything that I could connect with the owners. Like, I knew who owned the brand versus these legacy brands where maybe they have, you know, like 200 employees and you have no idea who even the brand owner is. You're just talking to maybe like a sales rep or something. Like, so I just wanted to like help people like have because like obviously I don't have like the biggest following on social media, but they have a contact to me. Like, I'm always like, hey, if you need help, like, let me help you. Right. And I'm not just gonna pitch you supplements. I want to actually help you with your whatever you're struggling with. So like, I think it was that approach of being more like, you know, open to the public and like being like, hey, this is where, like, obviously Seth is like that all the time, you know, like he's very transparent. And I think that's what I wanted to be for the supplement industry on the formulation side of things. It's like, hey, if you have a question about a product, like, just ask me, because then hopefully I can get you an answer, you know what I mean? Like, versus trying to go through this wormhole of like, you know, they have no idea what they're taking, they have no idea why and stuff like that. So I just wanted to be like a resource for people, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, I know being a female, I just don't see it that way. I've always grown up, I was always a tomboy, you know, played with the boys, whatever. So maybe I just don't see it that way, but I understand, like, obviously it's primarily male driven. I mean, our consumer base is heavily male. Right. It's probably 80% male. So I think my goal is to show women, especially through fitness and training, that like this is just here to improve your life. You know, like, resistance training doesn't have to make you look like a bodybuilder. Right. Like, it's super beneficial for anybody. You know, whether you're 80 years old and you've never lifted a weight in your life, or you're 20 years old and you want to get in great shape. It's like, you know, I think this industry has something for everybody. And like, look at these products. I mean, you have like a health product, really high stim fabric. Like, they can apply and help anybody. So I think that's, you know, I don't want it to be like a one faceted thing. Right,
and that's what I was gonna say. From the flip side of that is, I think there's an opportunity here to put you out there more, and speak to the female demographic. Because if you're 80, and this is not unusual, right? Most consumers of dietary supplements, at least the brands that we know, are traditionally male. Now you have certain brands like Alani Nu that does a really good job of speaking to the female, but they also have Katie Hearn, who's the face of the company. Like, you're back here actually formulating these products, get you on the social channels. Have they approached you about being out there more and trying to use your image more and you and what you're doing for this company to speak to the female demographic at better than, say, like a logo, a flavor could do? I think, I think me just doing more videos, talking about the products and whatnot, people realize, you know, and obviously on the athlete side of things, we're growing our athletes, obviously our female side of things, because we have like Missy Truscott now, we have like different athletes, but so getting more of them involved as well, because, you know, like, although I'm in shape and everything, like, I'm not an athlete, I'm never going to be like in an ad or anything, but maybe using them plus me as, like, you know, the information side of things to kind of mold that all together to tailor or like to advertise more towards females is great. And also, I mean, I would love to down the line create a female line, not that it's going to be like underdosed protein or some shit. It's not some pink thing. But there are products and ingredients that women can really benefit from. You know, and so it's something I do want to create. And if we could open up our brand, like, obviously our branding's changed a lot over the years, so it's becoming a little bit more like, you know, geared towards both females and males. And I mean, I just want to show females that you don't, like, just because you go to the gym, you're not going to look like freaking Ronnie Coleman in 4 days. Like, I've been training my whole life, and I'm not even nearly like that. So I'm not gonna say, like, I love Missy. Missy's great, but I think she's in the minority of like what women look like, right? So like, you know, most women who go to the gym probably don't strive to be like Missy. They strive to be like you. They strive to be just like in shape, tone, and so I think there's an opportunity there. Like, you know, you look at some of our big brands, like we talk about Ghost a lot. I think they do a really good job of using, just for lack of a better term, generic looking people in some of their ads. Like, these guys, they just want to look good, feel good, go out, hang out, party, have a good time. Not that you're promoting partying, but like, there's an opportunity here for the general everyday person to say, hey, I need a greens and reds powder in my life because it's going to help with gut health and digestion, can help with brain activity. So how do you speak to them differently? Like, what do you have to do as a formulator? What does the brands have to do? And not just Axe Sledge, but all brands. Like, what can we do better to recruit the generic looking audience that still goes to the gym, that can get a benefit from this kind of stuff? But again, traditionally, we've done a shit job as an industry in speaking to them.
Yeah, and you're right, because it's the 99%, right? Like, a lot of these products and things that we create our market towards, it's like the 1% of like the bodybuilders who are gonna buy these supplements no matter what. So it's like, I think offering a wider range of products, number one, like, you know, I would love to have Axe Sledge be a brand for everybody. So eventually get to the point where we almost have every supplement that's, effective and whatnot, and well formulated that can, whether you're, dealing with a health problem or, like you said, you're just a person who's just looking to get in shape, or you're a body, whatever it is. Like, you could be on any end of the extremes, and like, we can help them in some way. And I do think as a company, we take a lot of pride in our customer service, and I know not everybody's gonna, jump out and like, reach out for help, but it's like when they do, we do everything we can to, best suit them and like help them out in terms of like giving them nutrition advice, training advice. Because here's the thing, supplements are just supplements.
Yep.
Right? They're not gonna be, although they do help and everything like that, I just see them as problem solvers. If you're struggling with appetite, maybe a fat burner would be great. If you're struggling with energy levels, maybe a pre-workout's great for you. But at the end of the day, it's gotta be your lifestyle choices.
Right.
That's what we have to tackle. And I know I'm not gonna be like, the trainer to sit with you and write you down a plan and everything, but if we can at least give them advice on how to, and it takes more time.
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna change the world overnight, but that's my goal with everything, because I'm never gonna tell you or try to sell you on a supplement it's not gonna be your like quick fix, So I think, I don't know, that's a tough question, because it's like, that's such a lifestyle thing, and it's like generational and everything like that.
Well, the one thing too, like, from a marketing brand perspective, Axe Sledge as a brand, as a marketing avenue, is geared more towards men. Like, I mean, it's I'm not gonna say it's super hardcore, but it is a lifestyle, right? If you look at the videos that Seth puts out there, and it's like, I mean, they are blue collar, hardworking, which is intentional.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a little bit maybe harder to recruit because you have a brand Axe and Sledge, versus say Alani Nu, which is a little bit more approachable as a female. So,
True.
And again, like trying to be a brand for everybody. Sometimes if you try to please everybody, then you please nobody at times. So I think you guys do a really good job of being in your lane. One thing that I've always done, obviously being a food brand owner, and even at my days when I worked for General Mills, is we do store walks and we go and we buy the competitive set. We see what's out there. How often do you take other brand stuff, buy the competitive set, research what else is out there to incorporate into your thought process when you are formulating or thinking of what to do next?
I'm a consumer first.
Sure.
So I try stuff all the time. Probably more than I like to admit sometimes. But I love trying new products. Like being with PricePlow is great because you get to try literally everything. Yep. You get to know what's coming out. So whenever we're looking to tackle a category, I do want to try whatever's in that category. And I also want to just look at, like do a market analysis. How much are these things selling for? What are the key ingredients that people are looking for? Because at the end of the day, there are certain ingredients people are always going to look for no matter what. Like, let's say they found something that was better than caffeine as a stimulant. You could claim, oh, this ingredient's been shown to be X times more effective than caffeine. Are consumers going to care? They want to see that there's caffeine in the pre-workout, right?
Unless it does a good job of articulating and educating it.
Exactly. Or if I'm going to come out with a liver supplement, TUDCA is almost mandatory because all these other brands have TUDCA. People are going to be looking for that ingredient. It's talked about, whatever. So I think there are staple ingredients that you need to have in a formula and then build around it. So how do you make that pre-workout or that liver product special? Is have that staple ingredient in it, but then make the rest of the formula, kind of support it and be different than other products on the market. So, and obviously we work with key ingredient ingredient suppliers like, New Live Science, NMB Nutrition. I want to use a lot more of their stuff like that. But Compound Solutions, I just want to innovate within that category, but I strongly believe you have to try those products, because how are you going to know what consumers are going to expect or want or demand, especially if it's like, hey, this is a really hot product from this brand. Okay, I'm going to try it. Why would I not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't like when people are like, oh, I only take what X. It's like everyone wants to try different things. It just is what, especially flavors. You got to get an idea for what's out there.
Right.
So
which brands are outside of Axe and Sledge? Do you have several brands that you look to and say, yeah, they're doing everything right. I respect that brand. Has a ton of integrity.
Yeah. There's several. I've always looked at, obviously, NutriBio is great, especially with, the quality they put into their products and everything like that. Ghost is obviously very innovative in the industry with not only their flavors, but their formulas I'm a nerd, so I love to look at their formulas, and I do appreciate the time and effort they put into those.
Yeah, Mike Wilkie over there doesn't get enough credit for some of the stuff.
No, I don't think he does, because they do some really cool stuff. And then some other ones, there's some newer brands that are doing some, like HG Muscle is doing some really cool stuff. They have some really solid formulas, even like Hostile with some of their pre-workouts and whatnot. So there's a bunch of different brands I like to try, and just to see, Glaxon's, obviously, Joey does who knows what Joey does? He just
no one knows
wild
does.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see everyone. It's cool because I know we're all competition, but at the end of the day, we all market to different people. We all want to make great products. Like, listen, if you come out with a really cool flavor collaboration or, product that I'm like, wow, that's like, I'm the first one to be like, hey, that's fucking awesome.
Right.
You know what I mean? Whereas, so to me, it's just all about improving the industry because you know this because you've come from like General Mills and stuff. Like, we're a small fish in a very big pond. Mm-hmm. And if we can just help more people and grow this industry in general, like, I mean, that's the goal.
You mentioned the term innovate like 3 times, which is good. How do you actually bring true innovation to the category?
I think by taking a different approach than maybe the rest of the, like I said, when I take a pre-workout, there's always like, hey, I wish it was this, or I want to look, so I guess it's more biased because I'm taking, obviously Seth is heavily involved in these as well. So I think it's me and him looking at what's out there and just producing what we wish would be out there, and whatever that looks like, whether it's bringing a new ingredient like the pump capsules. I mean, to put 508 milligrams of vasodrive isn't very common, right? Like most people use 254. So even if it's not using different ingredients, but maybe different amounts and things like that, just to make the product as best as we can within a given, price. Because not everyone's going to want to pay, I can make a $100 pre-workout, but who's going to buy that?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And so, we try to make things affordable at the same time, but also effective. So, even doing different flavors and stuff like that. Obviously collaborations are cool and everything, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of ways you can bring new things to the market that are, different than that. So,
for a long time, people would gripe about innovation. Like, it's impossible to bring innovation to the category when the FDA and all these, they're banning certain ingredients and there's such a small pool to pick from. I mean, you've gone to supply side, I go to supply side. Yeah, there's a small pool of ingredients that's fucking huge. Like, there's a lot of stuff out there. So that part can be overwhelming. Like, how do you know what to choose? Like, obviously, I think you look at maybe some other brands are doing, and some of these ingredients manufacturers do a really good job of marketing their particular ingredients. But there's still a lot of like unknown or maybe not well discovered ingredients out there that could work really well. Like, what's your process to vet out new ingredients?
I normally like trying them on their own. I'm really big on that. Some health ingredients, it's hard because like you got to get blood work done and stuff like that. But when it comes to like, let's say a pre-workout or even like stuff that you feel acutely, like, whether it's a sleep support supplement, a stress reducing supplement, whatever it is, I like to try out that ingredient by itself because if you just take a formula that has 10 plus ingredients, how do you know what's really working? And I'm not about just like the kitchen sink formula, just throwing everything in there and just hoping something works. So for me, I really like to test stuff out. And I know, here's the thing, like I'm just one person. So I like to get a lot of people in our office to test things too, especially when working with formulas, because I'm like, hey, I need multiple, because like maybe someone doesn't like the effect of this X ingredient or whatever. And if I don't feel anything and I'm expect to or whatever, like maybe it's the dose, maybe it's the ingredient, like you just, it's hard to tell. But like I said, I mean, it depends. It just depends if it's like a health-based product or if it's like a pre-workout, because then you can know right away. I mean,
talk to me about, let's grab one of these here, like 212 degree thermal, like from start to finish, from concept to execution to in this package. How long does that process take for you?
This one specifically?
Yeah. Was that 6 months in the work? Was it a year in the work? I mean, obviously testing can take some time because you're waiting for samples from the manufacturer. Like, you start with concept, right? You write down what you think might be good, or by you want these ingredients. You get some costing, or maybe you don't even get cost. You probably just run with it until you think it's good, and then you get cost. Like, shit, I can't do it. But like, what is a generic time frame from idea to execution for a new product for Axe Sledge?
I think the shortest is probably 3 months. The longest is probably 6.
Okay.
Like, there's obviously certain products that, like the new potential pre-workout we're coming out with, that's been like a year plus.
Sure.
But that's because of a lot of different factors from last year, played into it. But in general, I'd say like 3 to 6 months, just depending on what it is. Obviously, if it's something super basic, that doesn't take long. But if it's something a little bit more like, robust and stuff, like I said, you start with the market analysis, and you go through the process of like, okay, what's in this category? What do I want to see that I can improve on? Because listen, what's the point of coming out with a Reds powder if you can't make it better?
Yeah.
Like, literally, what's the point? And there's also not many Reds on the market, but I want to make a product that's, better than, I don't say it's the best, because nothing's the best, but like better than maybe most. That's why I want to bring it to the industry. It's not like DBAP, like people are like, why did you make a pre-workout with almost, 550 milligrams caffeine? It's like, because there's a demand for it. I don't take that product. Seth doesn't take that product. But we're not making it for us. We're making it for them,
Right.
So, and it's it does really well for us. So
I'm sure it does.
You know what I mean? It's just all about like what's missing in the space. You're looking for holes and gaps that you can potentially fill, because at the end of the day, like, you know, that's what people are demanding. So
this was an interesting one, right? Like, I've used it, and I'm not a high stim guy at all. But you know, there are the pundits online. They'll be like, "What are you doing? You're going to kill somebody with that." The research shows for like a 200-pound male, you benefit from anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams of caffeine. I mean, this doesn't have 600 milligrams. So I think I used to stand up on my soapbox and be like, no product ever needs 600 milligrams of caffeine. And I still don't think anybody ever needs this much caffeine. But to your point, there's a demand for it. And as long as it can be safely taken, and you're not going to launch a product that's going to kill somebody, right? Like, then you should be able to do it. So the thought process behind this particular brand, was there hesitation, or product, was there hesitation to do it? Or was it like a green light from the get-go?
Well, you know what's funny is Seth, you know there's just like those iconic pre-workouts in the market, right? Everyone keeps talking about, even to this day, Jack 3D, you know, Hyde, you know, Mr. Hyde, whatever. There's always those pre-workouts that people talk about. And I was like, man, I feel like there hasn't, like, there's a few companies that have released some super high stim stuff. But I feel like there hasn't been like that one iconic high stim, well-formulated pre-workout that like no one stops talking about, right? So Seth and I were going back and forth, like, should we do this? Are we gonna get sued? Like, you know, I was like, Seth, there's studies out there, numerous studies that show that this is a safe amount of, you know, caffeine, right? Especially based on your body weight. And so once I formulated it, Seth was like, okay, we got to get people to try it, because he wasn't going to try it.
Right.
So we got a lot of people here to try it, including him, to see how it would be. And we were still hesitant about it. And when it launched, I was like, I was prideful because it was my first pre-workout that was releasing, but I was also like, I'm prepared for these customer service emails and how I'm going to answer them.
Right.
Not that I get them directly, but customer service is going to talk to me if there's a problem,
and that's
right?
the response, for sure.
So we got nothing. Like, I'm not saying like everybody loves it, but we got no like. Listen, if customer service ever has a question, they're gonna ask me, so I'm gonna know about it. And we literally got nothing. It's all been, at least from what I've seen, like really good reviews. And here's the thing: I think people buying this product know what they're getting into.
They should.
And I never listen. We have 3 other pre-workouts to choose from. So we're not going to recommend, like, if someone's like, hey, Heather, I want to take a pre-workout from you guys, what should I start with? I would never say DBAP, right? And none of our customer service agents would either. So it's like, you know, from that perspective, I think people buying this just knew what they were getting into. And that was my hope, because a lot of them said, you know, like, oh, I took a full scoop, and then I was like, oh shit, that's too, and even Seth was very vocal about it. He said numerous times, like, hey, because what was funny, we released this right out, like after Elf, which is totally 2 different things, right? And he said on a story, he was like, hey, listen, I'm not about this either, but there's a demand for it. This is why we're producing this product. And that was it.
So we'll jump ahead. We have a full, fresh year. You guys had a great 2022. Like a great 2022. Like, we were sitting here before we turned the camera on, we were sitting talking with Seth, and like, you can see how glowing he is about how good of a year you guys had in business in terms of distribution, D2C. You guys are gearing up for a really crazy 2023. Does that put a lot on your plate? I mean, like, Heather, we got to keep up with the trends. We got to keep this momentum going. Like, we need, you know, whatever your innovation pipeline looks like, that falls on your desk.
Yeah, last year was tough because although we had a great year, you obviously were working with us and saw that we launched a ton of products towards the end of the year, right? It was like almost like one after another, like all through Black Friday through Christmas. So last year, our whole entire goal was to have a year like, you know, when you see brands are so like almost every month they're releasing something. That was our goal for last year. It didn't happen because a lot of things, you know, behind the scenes were happening, so we couldn't do that.
It's also very fucking hard and very expensive.
It is. And now the supply chain's, you know, getting a lot better. So, I mean, manufacturing's picking up and everything. So for this year, our goal is to release either a new product or a new flavor or multiple every month throughout the year. So that's going to be big for us. And also, like, we have a lot of products already. So it's like, what is missing in our line that like we could potentially, you know, add on to or make better, right? So what are maybe some old products we could revamp? What are some new products we can bring to the market, because that's always fun? And then what are some fun flavors that maybe we don't have that we could also do? So it is a lot, because now this is, like last year, it wasn't my sole role to do this, and now it is. So it's like being on top of like samples, manufacturing, like getting ahead of all of that, because it's crazy to see, like, you know, we talked about time frames, like 3 to 6 months, whatever. It's crazy to think about, like, hey, this product just released. I'm already into, like, you know what I mean, like fall of this year or whatever it is. Like, when, you know, the marketing team is so focused on getting content for this product, and you're trying to think about, okay, well, what are we releasing 6 months from now. Like that's where my head's at, right? Like, and trying to get ahead of that, because obviously we just want to grow, keep the momentum going, because it is very fun to have multiple product launches and have them be, you know, our consumers love it, obviously. Everyone's always asking for what's next. So this year, that's our goal, is to come out with either a new product or a new flavor every single month. And so far, like with our timelines, with our labels, you know, all the design, like everything's kind of like set up for success, especially with that. So
because January we had this, right?
Cookies and cream.
I don't even know if I know what. Yeah, cookies and cream, which it's a revamp, but it's a good revamp back into farm fed. So that's January. I don't even know if I know what you have coming for February. I don't even know if we discussed this yet. So.
I don't even know if January's done yet either. We have another, we have some new products. And then February, we have a couple, kind of like a rebranded product, and then a new flavor.
Sure.
There's a bunch of stuff. And it's all about having formulas and products like in the pipeline, and like just kind of putting them in when we feel is the best time to release it. But we do have some things that are set in stone, that we're like, hey, this is the time frame, this is the flavor, whatever it is. But like the rest of it's kind of like having stuff in the back burner, so then we're like, hey, we're ready to release this. Like, you know, that's kind of where we're getting to. I wish I could talk about it. There's a ton of new stuff coming, but it's just,
I find out about this stuff like the same time you guys do, by the way. Like I email on Monday and then I say, okay, this is coming on Thursday. So, which I mean, given the last year in supply chain, like you guys literally had no clue, like if you were able to launch things on certain dates that you had. So like, it's always a thing where you have to flip flop stuff. Pills, powders, functional snacks. Let's talk about that. Is that any talk about getting into functional food snacks as a brand?
So we did have the homemade bars.
That's right. Yep, you had the homemade bars.
The problem we ran into with that was just the shelf life. Those were a very like clean bar, no preservatives. You know,
and the lemon one was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they tasted great. They did well, but it was just, it's tough to compete in that market. Not that we can't, but it's like with that shelf life, it was, I think, at first it was a 6-month shelf life, which is nothing. Then it was a 12-month, and even that was super difficult, especially for like our stores, right? Like trying to sell those bars and, you know, running into issues with that. But, you know, I'm never going to say never. So maybe in the future, that's something that we could look into, because I think it would be something more unique than a bar, though. I think it would
Bars
be,
are so overdone now,
right?
too.
Like, yeah, I think it would be something that's a little bit different, and maybe it would be its own brand, right? Like, I think it'd be cool to kind of approach it that way versus just trying to do everything under one brand. I think that's where it opens up markets of like, hey, I'm going to launch this new brand. It's going to be its own social media page, its own website. Like, that's where you can kind of like, you know, it's all about marketing, right?
Yeah,
like at the end of the day. So I do like functional snacks. I mean, whenever I'm traveling, talk about trying things. I love trying new bars and stuff like that. I do have my staples, but I think people are coming out with some really cool stuff. I would love to do, even though this is a bar, like a protein crispy kind of like thing, just because I tend to like those kind of bars. But
outside of the homemade bar, do you have any experience in that, or that's kind of like new for you, so it'd be kind of exciting?
Yeah, that would be something that's totally new. I think that's, although people think about functional foods like it's goes hand in hand with supplements, I don't think it really does, because it is like this whole different. Because I feel like when functional food brands try to start supplements, they don't do as well as if they just focus on. And then when supplement companies start functional foods, it's like some do really well, but some, you know, struggle with like trying to balance both, because it's just way different, you know.
Right. I mean, you think about
different manufacturers.
Most of the time, there's somebody there that probably came from like a food company. You know, if it's good. Like, I mean, you look at Quest, for example. They started in food and then they got into supplements. And I mean, at that point, that transition, it's protein powder.
That's what I mean. That's not really.
That's easy. But yeah, you're right. It's very difficult, I think, for a sports nutrition company to get into functional and do it good, because they just don't understand that it's a different beast. Like, you know what I mean? Like, shelf life is one, the food science is different. But
I mean, if you look at like Mark Lobliner, like what, I mean, I know he owns a bunch of different brands, but if he has MTS, right, like that's his sports nutrition, and then he has the outright bars that do extremely well, but that's a whole different, like I like when brands, you know, you open up a different company to kind of like, this is what this does, you know what I mean? And it would be fun though. I would love to learn about that stuff, just because my passion for nutrition and food and stuff like that. I'm always the person to look at the ingredients on a bar. Like if it looks really like bad, I'm just like, dude, I'm not gonna eat this.
For sure.
But it's, you know, and with bars and stuff like that, taste is everything.
Yeah.
So
taste is almost everything in anything too.
It's true,
like, I mean,
but it's even more so with like functional foods, energy drinks. You know, if it doesn't taste good, I don't think anyone's gonna buy it.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, they might buy it once and then they just won't buy it again, which is tough. What's your favorite category?
Ooh, in terms of like.
What's like in terms of like just overall? Like, is it the I mean, do you enjoy taking pre-workouts and formulating pre-workouts? Is it like intro workouts? Is it sleep? I mean, there's a lot of cool categories out there that are unique. Like for me, for example, my favorite category is the sleep aid category. I think there's so much you can do with that category. I use them periodically. It's not like I'm using them every day like a pre-workout because I don't want to take a sleep aid every day, but I just think it's fascinating, like the different ways that we can fall and stay asleep, whether it be easing discomfort, if it's like a pain alleviation thing, or getting to REM, or alleviating stress and just letting your mind be clear. So I think it's very complex and cool. Obviously I use a pre-workout every single day, but that doesn't mean it's my favorite category. But you as a formulator, like which category like gets you going the most, if any?
This is funny because we don't have this product yet, and it's something I do, and I'm not going to say it's come out this year, but eventually I do want to make it's a stress-reducing supplement or like an anti-anxiety supplement, because I've definitely just personal experiences, but I've definitely deal with a lot of anxiety. I know a lot of people do, and there are certain, like go back to taking individual ingredients, seeing how they work. Right. There's a ton of ingredients in that space that I absolutely love and I nerd out about because, listen, stress affects all of our lives in different ways. And I don't care if you're trying to lose fat, build muscle, get healthy. Stress is gonna, you need to manage your stress no matter what. And in today's world, especially in the US, with everybody like, we all have busy lives. We all are like go, go, go. Social media is running our lives, stuff like that. Just being able to wind down, especially, I know it kind of goes with sleep aids, right? Like being able to wind down at night and just be more calm and all of those things. Like it is a health. Although it's like health and well-being, it's performance too. Like if you're stressed out all the time, you're not gonna be able to perform well. Like nobody will. So, man, that category, there's so many cool ingredients. Some of my favorites are like obviously KSM, ashwagandha. I take that. All those different. I know there's different kinds and whatnot. My favorite is that one, just because it's more of a daily driver for me. If I want something more strong, I would do Shodan. That one's obviously great, super strong. And then I like theanine in that aspect. I like even like just a ZMA. I know this is all basic stuff, but it's like when you combine all those, I think it's just an awesome combination. Like phosphatidylserine. Yeah. There's plenty of stress support supplements, and just to shout out a company like Glaxon Serenity was the first one I took when I was at PricePlow, and I was like, man, this is actually a really, really cool category, and nobody talks about it. Yeah. And
which we should. Like that should be the category that should be booming, which it has not gotten mainstream yet.
And I'm like, I think if it could get mainstream, I think that would be, and I like the nootropic space too.
I love it.
Because I'm not a big stimulant person, but I love taking something that makes me just zone in and be able to like work, especially when it's a lot of computer work. Even in the gym, I've always loved pre-workouts. I just had that focus element. And I know everyone loves the pump, but for me, like the focus, because I could be really high energy but not be focused. I don't know if you know what that feels like. I mean, you're just like, you're all stimmed up, but you're like, you can't focus on anything.
It's counterintuitive to like what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so I think two categories I really am passionate or just like looking into a lot lately is the stress and the nootropics. I think are really cool. It's just nootropics. We talked about this with Seth. Like everyone responds differently to them, and so you got to find the ones that work for you. Conicin, acetylcholine is one of my favorite in terms of like the cholines, category. And then obviously I love tyrosine, cognitique, stuff like that. Like because I work out normally later in the day, or I prefer non-Simpres. I love non-Simpres that just have a really good focus and pump, and that's all I really need. I mean, at the end of the day, but that's what I gravitate towards, especially trying so many different products.
People that follow you on social media know that you obviously train. You train here at Pump Down. Is there body part that you enjoy more so than others?
I think I like training shoulders the most. That sounds kind of weird. I do like legs as well. But I think shoulders, for some reason, like I've always wanted to have really capped shoulders, which I don't really, but I don't know what it is. I just think...
You just trying to be Missy Trescott out here?
Oh yeah, of course. But I think because when you see a physique and you see like really like developed shoulders, you're like, oh, that person probably lifts. Or they have really good genetics. But I think that's probably the body part I like to train the most. What's funny is I used to love training arms when I like first started training, and I hate training arms now for some reason. Yeah. I could not do an arm day to save my life. It'd be so boring. Like, I normally just do like a push-pull leg split though. So like back and shoulders, like for some reason, are like the two body parts I like to train the most.
It's interesting today, like when Heather pulled up, she's on her car, she has Axe Sledge decals, and I said, what are you gonna do when you leave Axe Sledge and pull those off? And her response was, I'm not leaving, I have a tattoo. So like you're happy. Like this is where you wanna be.
Like I said, growing up in Northern Michigan in a blue collar rural area, like this brand, and obviously we have All American Roughneck too. Yep. We didn't mention that, that's an apparel company, and then obviously like Seth and Mike and everyone and Bob, everyone involved in this company, it's my crowd. It's like the company that although there's other companies I respect and I appreciate, I don't know if I'd fit in as well.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you've obviously seen it. It's like, it's a different culture.
Every place is different.
Right? Yeah. Like, and just to bring a different side of things in terms of like the educational component, like what I have to offer. It's just something that everything we do, I'm just passionate about. And, Seth said it to me before. It's like, we can train you to do this and this, but we can't teach passion. If you don't have passion for this, like, what are you doing here? Because everybody at this company has different backgrounds, different interests, but at the end of the day, whether they train or not, like, not everybody here is a meathead. Like, if you go to the gym at night, like, there's only a handful of people working out, but it's like everyone does an awesome job at their job. Like, they're just passionate about what they do. And obviously, just company culture is everything for me, and I love going to work. Like, I hate when I'm sick and I can't go to the office, although I can do my job at home. You know what I mean? Like, it's the people, and they provide me way more than a paycheck, So I think that's what makes me happy is just like, I could go somewhere, let's say I went somewhere else, got a higher pay. It's like, would I really be happy there though? Like, I mean, for me, it's not really about the money.
Would you ever want to do your own thing?
Man, I don't know. When you start getting into fitness, how you're always like, oh, I want to start my own gym. I want to start my own supplement company. I mean, I don't know if I'd have like I've never been a business savvy person.
Sure.
So I don't know if I could, to be honest. Like, that would have a lot to learn, obviously. But being in this role, I mean, I don't know. Although I have restrictions, I do have a lot of free reign when it comes to like creating products. And for me, I love just creation, like creating things, like whether, it's a new whatever, like it's just fun for me to be involved in that process. So I'd have to learn business.
For sure.
And I think everyone, like there's a lot of great, business owners that never went to school for it or whatever. Like, not that you have to. It's just something that's in a category, an area that I've never been like interested in, you know what I mean? And it's something I just have to learn if I did want to do that. But
so we'll wrap this up with, you mentioned passion a couple of times. Like, what's your ideal passion project here? Is there something that you've been wanting to work on, or if you could work on anything that you wanted to here at Axe Sledge, what would that be?
Like product-wise?
Whatever.
I think it is coming out with two things. Like, I think it'd be developing that like a really solid female line of supplements, because obviously I'm female, I could benefit from it, but also a lot of other consumers could as well. And then also just more health supplements, because there's different brands like Revive MD that cater towards whether you have a health condition or not, or maybe you're an enhanced athlete, whatever. I think just making a supplement that could help someone and they didn't have to take a medication would be my passion project, because I'm not against medications whatsoever. I think obviously they're important and they're effective, but it's so cool when someone's like, hey, I was able to take, X product and get off this medication. Like, that's great, especially like if it's like an anxiety medication.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they're like, hey, I could take this and now I can cope with whatever. And like, that would be freaking awesome. Like, I love hearing people talk about our products in terms of like just giving me review feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Like, but it's really cool to like put something out there and see people get so excited about it.
Yeah.
Like, that just drives me to do even more. But like, I think looking at Axe Sledge from an outsider view, I think health and wellness is something that we could just dive into.
Right.
That category, just because we have a reds and greens, we have a multi, stuff like that, but it's like, there's so many different, like a liver, a heart, a stress, a gut supplement. I mean, things like that, like I said, could potentially help someone get off medication would be awesome.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. If people want to follow you online, it's what?
H_Jacques. And
spell Jacques, because no one.
Yeah. JACQUES.
Yeah, that's why I said Jacques.
Jacques,
you're still
yeah.
Jacques to me, damn it.
That's fine. That's
cool.
fine.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was great having you in town. You get to see
Yeah, I got to work out, which is great.
Some of the madness.
The madness consists of like 4 buildings, guys. This place isn't small, so
yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, who knows where we're going next.
Right.
So, yeah.